Yo, it's your boy Vegabomber, and now finally here it is, the spoiler review. You went out and saw this movie, right? Okay, I think you have. According to the numbers, a lot of people have seen this movie. Okay, so what did I think? What's my analysis? And let it rip, right? Because it's the spoiler review. So I'll just say it like this. I didn't hate this movie. I saw how the critics just really pummeled it. It had less than 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. In a world where bad superhero movies do exist, Elektra, Ghost Rider, Daredevil, all the Fantastic Fours, Catwoman, this movie's not that. At the same time, I also didn't love this film either, because in a world where Avengers, Iron Man 1, the Nolanverse, Winter Soldier, those movies are great. Those movies I could watch over and over and over again and not have to fast forward through parts that don't connect or aren't fun. So, didn't hate the movie, didn't love the movie, did think though that the movie was entertaining. And really, to be honest, who's not going to want to go see Batman vs. Superman? Now, I know they threw the Dawn of Justice in there just in case you were afraid you didn't go. So let's talk about the movie. Well, the movie starts off, once again, we get a montage, if you will, of Batman and getting kind of the origin story of Batman. I understand Zack Snyder's great with visuals. I understand he wanted to shoot and show the pearls and how that went down, and then you had to use the whole Martha thing because, you know, Martha becomes a really big issue later on in this film. You know, Superman's mom's named Martha, Batman's mom's named Martha. Now they can go practice and play and have fun now because their moms have something in common. So I would have to say that when I first started out, I gave it credit. Didn't bother me. I wanted to give this film a little bit of latitude. So even though we're seeing once again the origin story of Batman, I loved it when it finally jumped and said 18 months later, which was after the destruction in Man of Steel. And I loved seeing it from Bruce Wayne's point of view as he's looking up and he sees Zod and Superman just hurtling through buildings, and he's watching heat ray vision just take out a slice of a building, and then he sees a little girl there who's alone, whose parents are killed, and it's kind of like he can relate to her because his parents were killed in front of him. This girl, her parents are killed during this crazy destruction. So that glare that Ben Affleck, and by the way, if this movie has 99 problems, Ben Affleck ain't one of them, and he's not. And neither, by the way, is Gal Gadot. She's not a problem. So, anyway, back to what I was talking about. That was where they really pulled me in. That's where I was going, yes, you're going to get there. You're getting there for me. So the motivation for Bruce Wayne and why he's a little upset with Superman is clearly defined. It's clearly there, and it's clearly defined. Anybody could like that. But if you're a Superman fan, I can totally see why you wouldn't enjoy this film very much from Superman's perspective, because out of all of them, his motivations were the least clear, and some of the stuff that he was put into, well, didn't make sense. In fact, Superman to me was kind of like the big high school jock with a bunch of muscles, but with a small pea brain. It's like, this is Superman. He's a Kryptonian. The Kryptonians have they have technology that's way ahead of human technology. So being a Kryptonian doesn't mean he should be stupid. He should actually be pretty smart. So I really don't like the way Superman is depicted in this film. I mean, Superman just seems like an idiot. He's just stupid. He seems like it takes him forever to figure out what's kind of going on around him. And I don't know, I wanted to like Superman, but this film doesn't really make you like Superman. To me, and this is just the bomber talking here, I think Batman should show us the dark and gritty side, which he would be. But then I think the way to play Superman in this film is he needs to be the absolute opposite. Superman needs to be the absolute opposite of Batman as a contrast. We should see a Superman where, because he is pulling that ship and he's saving people who are in a flood and he's saving people who are dying, we should see more of why they built that statue for him and show that actually Superman is good. And because of it, even though there's some bad people out there, Superman still chooses to remain positive about people in general. His mom's a human, right? His dad was a human and he loved them. So really, there was a missed opportunity there to show Superman as the light, as the Boy Scout, as the good guy. You know, that way it would better contrast, I feel, between Batman and Superman. And in fact, let's get to the next part, which would be Lex Luthor. Well, in this film, he's actually Baby Lex, is what we understand. And all we get for our motivation is that his dad, Lex Luthor Sr., beat him up, and Batman never came and saved him. So he has this thing for, or Superman never came and saved him. So he has this thing for these gods, because, you know, they're nothing. There's a lot of God talk and demon talk and imagery and all that kind of thing, and Messiah stuff going on in this film. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird. But to me, this didn't work because every time Jesse Eisenberg was on the screen, I just felt like he was annoying. He was overacting. Now, there were some scenes where it made sense, but then he would kill it again later on. So, no, this, I don't think, for my own personal good, I don't think that this is the way that you would set up Lex Luthor. Instead, well, again, I got my rewrites of how this film should be, but I'll just say just a little bit. This film should have had an older Lex who was a real estate billionaire developer who basically is coming on the scene to say, hey, I'm the new guy, and I'm also going to be running for mayor, and I'm going to help rebuild Metropolis. And he's doing it to get everybody to forget about his criminal past, to like him as a current, you know, person who really is doing the most good for Metropolis. That would have been awesome. And just showing how he's smooth and he's in getting people to buy him, almost Palpatine-like, but really behind the scenes, he's trying to figure out that tech because he's been studying that ship. Because, you know, Lex Luthor is really smart. So he'd be studying that tech. So, Doomsday. I don't believe that Doomsday needed to be in this film. I don't believe that the Justice League should have been in this film. I don't believe that I don't believe that Amy Adams' character really added anything as Lois Lane. She just was needing help all the time, and she was basically a patsy. And she really just didn't have much to do. It's not her fault. And I think Jesse Eisenberg's still a good actor too, just not his fault that as Lex Luthor didn't have much more to do other than, super spoiler alert, capture Superman's mom, so that he could then say, either go beat the bat or your mom dies. Which has a host of questions that I could ask on that. Which, again, didn't we see this in Spider-Man 1 and 2 and 3 when they capture Aunt May, when they capture Mary Jane? Which one do you want to save, Spider-Man? Which one do you want to save, Superman? I mean, it just seems ridiculous. Since they pushed this movie back, you would think that they could have come up with a tighter script since they had more time, because the film was pushed back, but it wasn't. Now, these are some of the things up front that I'm saying. Again, the movie was entertaining. It really was. And I just can't ignore the flaws. I wouldn't be a real good critic in that case, if I actually ignored it just because I put on fanboy goggles and chose to ignore it. But see, again, I'll say that these movies, if it's about popcorn, fights, blowing up stuff, CGI, and who cares about the plot and story, then check plus. You got everything you wanted. But I'm going to suggest and support and actually ask you, the fans out there, we deserve good superhero movies because we've gotten a few of them, actually some great ones. So you're going to be putting out a lot of superhero movies here lately, Hollywood. We should have more than just 4 or 5 that were really, really good. When you look at how many have come out since 2008, and if you want to go back since 1978, I mean, come on. We should have a lot more movies that are much better than that because there's brilliant people writing these comic books. So let me move on. I would also say that it was tricky for me in that while this film was beautiful to watch, it was also difficult to see the editing in this film, because the editing just jerked you around. You didn't know whether it was a nightmare, you didn't know whether it was a premonition, you were just pulled around a lot. And I think just on one setting, you probably miss a lot of things. You have to go back and see this movie several times, which for them would be great. But if I go back and see a movie several times, I don't want it to be because there was some stuff I didn't quite get. I want to go back so I can just enjoy it, right? And I have to sit there and be paying a lot of attention to it. So there's just some missed opportunities with this film. But is it as bad as what the critics say? Absolutely not. It's not. It deserves better than 30%. In fact, I don't use the rating system that they use, but if I gave it a rating system, it'd at least be 68. I'd give it a 68 because, I mean, there's some things that you just have to expect in a superhero film, right? So, you know, that's how that goes. Now, let me talk about the Justice League and Gal Gadot for just a moment. Gal Gadot, again, at first wasn't really interested in seeing her as Wonder Woman, wasn't sure that she had a good strong body of work that would prove that she could hold a film or carry a film by herself. But I'll say, in the screen time that she has, which really I don't think she's necessary in uniform really, she was good. She did not ruin it. You know, everybody likes the idea that when she got into a fight and she got pushed back, she smirked. Okay, well that's just warrior stuff. Warriors do that. She's a warrior. But, you know, all the warriors should do that. Anybody that's in a fight that loves fighting should be smirking when they win. But at any rate, it still was good. Gal Gadot's, again, 99 problems. Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck definitely aren't them. Not at all. So, she was good. Now, let's talk about this Justice League thing. To be honest with you, Justice League, if you're going to start this film off showing 18 months later, what I think would have been a better cameo for everybody was to show what were they doing when Superman and Zod were flying through buildings and crashing up stuff and tearing up everything. We got Bruce Wayne's perspective, but I'm going to make the safe assumption, that the rest of the cats were around too, or at least were alive, and how could you not see it? Them two fighting in the middle of the day like that would have been national news, would have been all over the TV, just like when 9/11 happened. So to me, really, yeah, you show Bruce so you can get a sense of why he's upset, but really the cameo should have been just maybe 15 seconds showing, and you don't have to have him full-blown face close-up shot, but just something that lets you see that there's John Stewart, because by the way, he's a Marine. A Marine would be watching all that destruction because they're getting ready to be called in. You could easily show somebody that has Stewart on his name, on his suit, on his uniform, right? And you could just see him, and you could see him looking, just going, man, that changes things. Boom, that's all you need. Then you could show Cyborg, and however you want to set that up, with whatever background they want to do with him. With Aquaman, with that trident, all you have to do is just show that trident, show the top of the water, show that trident poking out of the water, getting close, and then you cut away just before you see him. Because again, remember, less is more. And I'm going to talk about that too, because the trailer gave away way too much in my opinion. And the same thing with Barry Allen. All you have to do is have a phone ring and it says Barry Allen. And you can have a guy, you don't have to have his full shot, but just maybe a side shot or a back shot of him. And you just see the phone, it says Barry Allen. And it says, yeah, I'm watching this. I can't believe this. Basically, that's all you needed. It was just a few seconds to show that, and that would be enough to tease it. In fact, that should have happened at the end of Man of Steel. But since it didn't happen at the end of Man of Steel, you could put it at the beginning of this film when you show how Batman's reacting to all the damage. Show just a quick clip of each one of them, about 12 seconds long, about what they were doing when it happened. I think that would solve that problem. I don't think I'd have Doomsday in this film. In fact, I don't need Doomsday at all. If anything, you could have Metallo in this movie. And I think Metallo should be the guy that had his legs crushed, because obviously he hates Superman. So you could have Lex easily just come to him and say, hey, listen, I've been doing some work on my research in my labs. I think I can help you. And you could just have him build him this suit, and he actually becomes Metallo. And basically Lex Luthor wants him to see how Superman would fight him and how the Kryptonite would handle him. See, that would be better. That way you don't need Wonder Woman fighting. You can have Wonder Woman there, but she doesn't need to be fighting yet. We're going to see her own film. Again, less is more. So let's talk about the marketing. So, in my opinion, the marketing of this film, while on one hand maybe was good because a lot of people went to go see it, okay, that was good. But I would say it was bad in the sense that a lot of the scenes in the trailers or the commercials, I was counting down going, oh, yep, here comes this one, here comes this one. I mean, it basically gave way too much away for the movie. It did. I didn't want to see Wonder Woman then at that moment. It gave it away when she shows up because I knew exactly what was going to happen. So I really feel like the marketing hurt as well, because I wanted to go in this film, I wanted to go into the theater and just sit back and take it all in. But it was too hard not to go, oh, wait a minute, this must be the part where, and I was able to piece the whole movie together just watching it. The only thing I didn't get is the last part, and that is Death of Superman. So if it wasn't enough that we have the origin story, we have Frank Miller's Batman Returns, we have Flashpoint kind of smuggled in, now we're going to smuggle in the Death of Superman, which on one hand, pretty ballsy, but at the same token, having Superman die in this one, I don't think that was the play. I don't think that's what you needed in this film. In fact, this movie basically just needed to be Superman 2, is really what it needed to be. We needed to see everything that happened from the day after all that destruction happened, because that would have had a major effect on the world, people in general. Everybody would have been talking about it. So really, that should have been the focus. It should have just stayed there. And then Lex Luthor is just, again, in my world, what I think he should be doing is he should be using all that money that he has to rebuild the city so that he can then grease everybody and play Palpatine in this situation. You know, I don't know why I'm doing that, but he needed to be the Palpatine in this one, right? And then he could be the puppet master behind the scenes, just testing to see what would the Kryptonian do. And that way come up with a full court press later on, maybe in Superman 3, where Superman's really in trouble. But I really think that it was just not a good thing to just all of a sudden have a joyless Superman fighting a joyless Batman with a kooky Lex Luthor, or baby Lex as it were, and then he dies, but then the dirt moves at the end on his coffin at the end, which tells you that he didn't die. So really all that death then was for nothing. And then the movie ends there. It was almost like they ran out of ideas, but they were able to say, well, Justice League, check. Wonder Woman, check. You know, Lex Luthor and his master plan, check. Doomsday, check. Batman origin story, check. Batman's anger, check. A little alliteration to the Joker with what he did with the Robin, check. Too many things going on. I think this movie, again, it's in the middle of the road. I'm going to give this movie a 6.8, if you will, almost a 7. But I just think that at this day and age, with what we know and the many great stories that have been written, it would just seem like you could just put one nice cohesive story together without this feel to have the sequel bait or just load this movie up with a ton of stuff that it just really doesn't need. A couple of years from now, when this movie, when the hype dies down and you go back and watch it for the film that it is, a lot of people are going to be disappointed, much like how the prequels were. I'm willing to bet. Because every movie after this has got to be better. I got to believe that. Now that they got all this out of the way, all the movies after this have got to be better. So anyways, what did you think? Did you love this movie? Did you hate this movie? Or are you like me? You were entertained, but you probably aren't, running out to go watch it 10 times. Like I did with Avengers, or Iron Man 1, or Winter Soldier, or Dark Knight, or Batman Begins. I'm probably telling you way too much. But anyway, this is Vegabomber. This is my spoiler review. Hang tight, kids, because I'm going to give you my rewrites to show you how this movie actually could have been made that I think still would have made everyone happy, but then would have given it some of the gravitas it needed to go along with those great visuals, because the great visuals were there, but the story, the plot, and the pacing was not, and the editing made it a disaster. So, at any rate, go see the film if you haven't seen it. It is Batman v Superman. Again, you can still be entertained by this film. So, that's it. Yo, it's your boy Vegabomber, and I'm out. You.